Oh, you're all so well behaved tonight. Okay, we've got some late ones. Well, now that Isidora has arrived, I think we can begin. Kalispera, Isidora. Thank you for coming. She's still saying hello to everybody else. It's okay. I mean, she'll wave to me in a second. Okay. Right. Good evening. Thank you for being here on time. Thank you for coming. I know the weather's a bit funny. And without further ado, if my boss is paying attention, she's in conference. We can wait, it's all right. Είμαστε έτοιμοι, no? Okay. So, thank you again for coming. And first of all, of course, the star of the show, Natalia Margioli Comino.
Dear President of the ICS, Mr. Kevin Shakespeare, dear Chairman of the ICS, Mr. Louis Bernard, dear members of ICS Controlling Council, dear members, students and friends, good evening. I am delighted to welcome you all to our 18th ICS Annual Forum. It is a great honor to see here tonight so many friends, students and members. I would like to express a warm welcome to the members of the Controlling Council who are here tonight representing 27 branches all over the world. A special welcome to all members and friends from all branches worldwide who are connected tonight through the live streaming, providing the international dimension of the Institute. For 25 years now, ICS Greek branch has trained more than 10,000 practitioners and has established an important pool of individual members. Now, we go a step further by developing the company membership open to all shipping companies registered in Greece. Every year, the ICS Annual Forum demonstrates our engagement to promote professionalism and to bring together industry leaders and young shipping professionals. But before we begin, let us take a moment to refresh our memories from our last gathering. While moving into a more uncertain future, shipping remains the backbone of international trade. Since its foundation, ICS has been committed to deliver high-quality professional education and to cultivate professional and ethical skills that are highly prized in the shipping industry.
The resilience and adaptability of shipping to survive crises and historically emerge stronger.
The last 7,000 years was the main occupation. Will be for the next 7,000 years. Don't worry.
I was following the discussion about clusters and seeing also my friend Anthony Komninos. We more or less started in shipping around the same time in the early 70s. And I recall that at the time Piraeus was quite an important cluster.
Unless you're able to measure things, you're not able to improve them. So there's a lot of space in, from sensors on board to applications to different better ERPs, etc. You can always find a niche.
Wherever is a will, is a way. And everything is made for humans. Superhumans, they do not exist. What you see around is made by people like you, with the two hands and their brain.
I think when there's a way, there's a will, and definitely it's a good environment to be in as a woman, of course. And now we are, as we are increasing in numbers, it's even nicer, I have to say.
The success of Greek shipping is that the 100 owners I know out of the 600, the 100 owners I know, they are successful because they can adapt quickly.
I used to say to the bankers that there is no more stable business than shipping. Because when it is up, it is definitely going to fall. And when it's down, definitely will come up. So unless you have the stomach to wait, it is the most stable business. Because you know that the other day will come.
What a panel. What a panel, eh? Such a wealth of talent, experience, knowledge, intelligence, opinions, and most importantly, wisdom.
Simon mentioned last year gave us the inspiration for this year's title, Shipping 2024, Sailing with Wisdom. Now let's welcome our distinguished panel, Mrs. Annika Bertel, Mr. George Euroukos, Mr. Aristidis Pitas, Mr. Valedios Valedis, Mr. George Mangos, Mr. Philippos Prokopakis, Mrs. Alexia Hadjimichalis. It is a great honor to participate in our conference tonight. Our panel moderator, Simon Ward, Director at Ursa Shipbrokers, Fellow of the Institute, lecturer at ICS Greek branch, great colleague, good friend, and a true motivator for all of us. Thanks a lot, Simon. And last but not least, our chairman, I would like to thank him for all these years, who is next to us, and I would like to ask him to come and address our conference. Thank you all for being here tonight.
President of the ICS, Mr. Kevin Shakeshev. Chairman of the ICS, Mr. Louis Bernard. Members of the ICS Controlling Council. members of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, dear students, distinguished guests, good evening. It is with great honor that I welcome you all to our 18th ICS Annual Forum. As chairman of the ICS Greek branch, it is my profound privilege to welcome the distinguished members of the Controlling Council to this significant gathering. Your governance and oversight ensure that the organization's strategic direction adheres to its mission and its values. I stand here today to reflect on an attribute that has been our guiding star, wisdom. Wisdom is not merely acquired by the passage of time. It is an amalgamation of knowledge, experience, and insightful judgment that has guided our industry through both calm and turbulent waters. The role of wisdom extends far beyond the realm of industry and assumes critical significance in humanitarian crises. Today, the war in Ukraine, the largest in Europe since 1945, still shows no sign of resolution. At the same time, the war in Gaza threatens to spread across the Middle East. The ancient Greeks, renowned for their contributions to philosophy, valued wisdom as the cornerstone of good judgment and ethical decision-making. In the realm of shipping, wisdom is manifested in our ability to engage in critical thinking, foresee changes, adapt to challenges, and innovate for the future. It is the culmination of the delicate balance between respecting our past while navigating towards our future. Our collective wisdom, accumulated over decades, empowers us to make prudent decisions, ensuring the sustainability and prosperity of our industry. As we move forward in today's panel discussions, I feel a sense of joy and anticipation. The presence of a diverse and knowledgeable panel symbolizes more than just an exchange of ideas. It also captures the dynamic convergence of our shared values, our mission, and our collective thirst for knowledge. I welcome you all and thank you cordially for contributing to this forum. Thank you, Mrs. Natalia Marioli and the ICS Greek branch team for the meticulous organization of the event. Thank you, Mr. Leonidas Dimitriadis Evgenidis and the personnel of the Evgenidis Foundation for your hospitality. Thank you all, both here and online, for your attendance today and for your continuing support. Special thanks to all our sponsors, whose contribution has been vital to the organization and success of the event. I sincerely hope that you enjoy today's presentations and discussions, and I invite you to join in. Yes, students too. Are the students up there or they're down here too? Every opinion counts. Thank you for your attention. I would now like to invite the International President of the ICS, Mr. Kevin Shakesheff, to deliver his special address. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellows and members of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, good evening. I'm delighted to be here this evening to this beautiful country, and joining me are 30 members of Controlling Council who've travelled here from all around the world. It's my pleasure to thank the Greek branch, and in particular Natalia and Stavroula, for their efforts, not just in organising this event this evening, but our Controlling Council, which will take place over the next few days. Our annual Controlling Council is a time to revalidate our core values and at the same time plan for the future. I often get asked by shipping companies and organisations, what's the value of a chartered shipbroker? And my answer is always the same. We've been in existence in excess of 100 years. And in that time, we've accumulated a lot of maritime information. And our syllabus reflects that information. And it sets out a student taking our examinations. It enables them to, it sets them out for a career, and they can deal with anything that the maritime industry should bring along to them. In my own case, I've been 50 plus years in the shipping industry. It was through my qualifying exams that I was, in a position to deal with, almost anything that got thrown at me. And believe me, a lot was thrown at me in my 50 years. It's my pleasure to congratulate the Greek shipping team on their successes with their examinations. We're the shining lights here. More students and passes than anywhere else in the world, and to top that, prize winners as well. So, congratulations to the Greek branch, and particularly congratulations to Natalia and Stavroula. Some breaking news, as Natalia's mentioned, they're going to form a federation council here, and that means that members are going to have an opportunity to join that federation, and they will not only get the benefits of being part of the institute, but they'll get training as well and education. So I'm not going to steal Natalia's thunder here, but I'm looking forward with interest to lots and lots of companies joining her federation. I came here last year. It was my first time to this forum, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I am really looking forward tonight to hearing from this illustrious panel, and at the same time, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of comments to follow up. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Controlling Council, may I wish you all a successful, enjoyable, and informative evening. Thank you very much.
It's catching. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President. Well, in a change to the usual programme, we're having our prize-giving thirst. Part of the reason for this is the embarrassment of riches that the success of our students has brought us. Natalia, you are a wonderful woman. Etsy, Antonio. Thank you for persuading me to be part of the Hellenic Management Centre and the Greek branch, and being able to share in your dream to provide professional education to our students all over these years. To have been given the opportunity to do something worthwhile for Greek shipping, for Greece, and for the industry, for making lives better. Thank you also to my brother and sister lecturers, some of whom were students of mine, in sharing that dedication and vision. I think some of you are here, I hope so. Thank you also, Stavroula, from me, and Tonia and Tanya and Bilio, for your dedication to the Hellenic Management Centre and the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers Greek branch and the ICS as a whole. Education is important. It provides knowledge and a different way of thinking that can lift and inspire people to fulfill their potential in ways that can surprise them. Please remember that when we are congratulating our prize winners, who we are so proud of, but we should also congratulate all that have passed their exams and gone on to be members. When I look around here at this audience now and see so many familiar faces, so many friends who have achieved success in their career, I am honoured to know them and to have been allowed to walk with them on their road to better things. A lot of the time spent studying is spent at the same time as working, at the same time as juggling with family, at the same time of dealing with life and everything else that comes with it. This is not easy, and this deserves our respect. So to all those students who have passed, to those that have failed and then passed, to those that have achieved distinctions and are prize winners, past and present, congratulations. And to those employers too here who have supported them and allowed them the time to study and grow, thank you. I'm sure that you have already realised the benefit that a professional education can bring. I know it changes lives. It inspires people to push themselves further. It is good for shipping, for Greek shipping, for the future of the industry globally. This is what we're celebrating now. So, without further ado, can I ask Mr. Dimitris Exarchou of Holman, Fenwick and Willen to present our appreciation to Konstantinos Deligiannis for winning the Baltic Exchange Award for the highest marks worldwide. Is he not here? Is he here? Okay, are you coming over, Mr. Chairman, Natalia? You coming down? Please, arrive, come on, it's your turn. To Konstantinos Deligiannis for winning the Baltic Exchange Award for the highest marks worldwide in shipping law. Now, let me tell you about Konstantinos. He's a chief officer on board LNG carriers for Maran Gas. He was studying on board. He has my full admiration for being at sea, for being a dedicated seafarer, at the same time as being a dedicated student. So, may I ask Mr. Haralambos Fafalios, who I know is here, of the Greek Shipping Cooperation Committee to show our appreciation to Soterios Soteriou for winning the Baltic Exchange Award for the highest marks worldwide in shipping business. Soterios, come on. Now, Soteri, so good they named him twice, you are very special. Every candidate for membership has to take this exam, and you beat them, every candidate in the world, for the whole academic year. This is truly worth celebrating. Bravo. Θυμάμαι. Now, if I can ask, well, we've got quite a lot of Fafali here. Can I ask Mr. Dimitris Fafalios, Chairman of Intercargo, to present our congratulations to Irini Gavala for winning the Clarkson's Award for the highest marks worldwide in the Advanced Diploma in Dry Cargo Chartering. Irini, I hope you don't mind me saying, is one of those people that never gives up. She failed her first exam in shipping business, but then came back to get a distinction in the next round, as well as getting the best combined marks. Vita management should be very proud of her. Perseverance pays off. Mr. Dimitriadis Evgenidis, our host, please come forward to present Nikolaos Tolias of Intrum with our congratulations for winning the John O'Keefe Prize for gaining the highest marks in ship sale and purchase. Now, as you can see, Nikos is not only clever and handsome, but also a father of young children who many times noisily joined us during our online lessons. To work and study and support his growing family is an achievement in itself. To win this prize is the icing on the cake. Thank you very much. Mr. Patrikios, when you're ready, please. Yes, you. Okay. Please come and congratulate Anastasia Strategaki of Kyklades Maritime for winning the Braemar Award for the highest marks globally in tanker chartering. Anastasia, if I may call you that, seems to sail through life. Despite high marks achieved in other exams, she also sailed right through the tanker chartering exam to first place globally. Working for Kyklades may have helped too, I suspect. And now I would like to ask Mr. Thanasis Martinos of Eastern Mediterranean to congratulate Emiliano Chesa on winning not one, but 2 prizes. But it's more than that. Emiliano got the Reed Smith Award for highest marks globally in legal principles, which is hard, I know. But the other, and this is a fantastic achievement, and please think of this, is the Shipwrights Award to the most successful candidate over all the exams in one academic year. Highest marks globally, taken in a year, passed in a year, kicked ass in a year. Now, we don't have time this year to present all of our distinction students for their achievements, but they know who they are. Okay, we got this one. Oh,
So these students are certified wives?
yes, indeed. Yes, exactly.
I forgot to say that.
Θα δούμε. As I was saying, but we'd like to award 5 more students. Is George, you're here. George Tidarakis, Ella. Please come present our award for the highest marks in Greece for ship finance to Dimitris Philemon of Silver Maritime. Ella Yogo, Meta, okay? Mr. President, if you would like to come forward while we're waiting for George to finish his royal tour, to present the highest awards highest marks in Greece for ship sale and purchase to Panayotis Georgilis of Watson, Farley and Williams. Panayoti. Panayotti, stay a lawyer. Don't become a broker, okay? Don't become a broker. Mr. International Chairman, Mr. Bernat, please come and award Olga Kakova. Olga, are you here? Olga, Ella. For highest marks in Greece for shipping business. Oh, Olga, I was lost there for a minute. Sorry. Okay, I think I can. Mr. Kananopoulos, please, of Nereus Shipping, could you please come forward and award another prize in ship sale and purchase, please, to Elena Pavlou. Elena? And finally, Mr. Simantonis, President of the Hellenic Short Sea Shipowners Association, please. Could you please express our appreciation to Jeet. Jeet Rahud. Jeet, where are you, my dear? For a distinction and highest marks in the economics of sea transport. Okay? Guys, we're taking your best students here, okay? Jeet. Just to say that Jeet is living and working in Greece. His English is good. I'm not sure about his Greek, so it's a real achievement. I'm not sure about mine either, but anyway, okay. So, thank you very much. Thank you. Right, should we have a drink? Ah, no. Normally at this point, I can go and have a drink, but because we've changed things around, now let's call it the main course. Mr. Chairman, Natalia, Mr. President, Mr. International Chairman, I had to open my big mouth, didn't I, and talk about wisdom. Wisdom, however, I strongly believe, Sophia, should be valued. As wise as an owl is a compliment, and it is surely no coincidence that the owl, I Kukuvaia, a symbol of ancient Athens, was printed on their coins. The same image that is still on euros issued today in Greece. So here we are, in the city named after and dedicated to the goddess of wisdom, Athena. I invite our overseas guests to look at the Parthenon, when you have the chance, in wonder. But also pray that the missing marbles return from wherever they are soon, because it doesn't matter who says they own them, they belong here. I'm a little annoyed. But having got that off my chest, I shall abide by the rules of hospitality of my adopted country, a courtesy sadly not extended recently by the Prime Minister of the country of my birth. You are all, honoured guests, very welcome. I also invite you to look upon this panel with wonder, evidence of the wealth of knowledge and experience, expertise and power that the Greek shipping industry exerts globally. My apologies, Annika. You are also a very welcome guest. But you and your company know how important Greek shipping is to a multinational company like yours. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Our other panelists, however, are not only Greek, not only inheritors of proud recent tradition, but also creators of new ones, as drivers, innovators, and passionate advocates of the shipping industry. You are also very welcome. I'm confident that you will provide abundant flashes of wisdom and insight and leave us all with much to reflect on. Now for the rules. I like to see this as not a set of questions and answers, but as a conversation between me and the panelists, amongst the panelists, and between the panelists and the audience, and between the audience themselves. But let's keep it to shipping, okay? In the interest of a free-flowing discussion, I like to think of this as a symposium, a seminar, another worthy ancient Greek custom. Feel free, members of the audience, to interject at any time. Raise your hands. I shall be wandering amongst you. And hitting you for the latecomers, I think. But just raise your hands, make a connection with me, and I will make sure that you are heard at any time. This is not just the panelists dropping pearls of wisdom from on high, but as you, Mr. Chairman, have rightly pointed out, a collective wisdom accumulated over decades, generations. You, honoured guests, members, students, have a part to play in this too. So, sorry, different in tone there now. Annika. We let Annika start off to get the ball rolling. Tankers, that's your area of expertise. Looking great, isn't it? Will it? How do you see the market at the moment? What are the main features? I mean, let's say let's not go too far out of everything, but let's just talk about crude and products and where you see things are at the moment and how we've come here.
So it's looking great, isn't it? Well, I mean, by comparison, yes, at the moment we are looking great. It's certainly been a wild ride the past few 18 or even a little bit further months or so, from the slumps that we have seen in 2020 and 2021. It's been, I think the buzzword around the tanker markets, crude and products, has been volatility, really.
Okay, but is that high-level volatility, or do you see dark clouds on the horizon?
Another proverb there, yeah?
No.
Oh,
okay.
Welcome
to my world. Okay.
Well, dark clouds, I mean, there is on the horizon of what, as far as we can see out at the moment, there is certainly a lot of uncertainty. That's what I would term it. Of course, there are geopolitical issues massively impacting on the tanker markets, in parts positive, potentially negatives. And there is a lot of more positives when we look deeper into the data and looking into the fleet, for example, with a relatively low fleet growth for certain areas. Yeah, there could potentially be some dark clouds there, particularly when we are looking at, on the crude side, for example, on what we have been at least in my line of business, what we have been waiting for on any news on the oil production cuts, the meeting that has famously now been postponed until Thursday. So we have to wait and see what happens there. I mean, that's very difficult to speculate, but there's a likelihood of further cuts and more prolonged cuts.
Okay, thank you. By the way, if you think I'm being rude by not calling people but Mr. so and so forth, they've all agreed very graciously to improve the conversation and answer to their first names. So I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just being conversational. Eddie, MRs, that was a good move, wasn't it? I mean, considering the windfall that you've had in the last few years, this was from being a pure bulk player moving into that was foresight. Would you say that you were lucky, or this was great planning?
Not at all. I would say that it's been very volatile, as Annika said. Don't forget, we're coming out of a depressed market. The last 10 years have been very difficult for tankers, with a spike in 2014-15, and then end of 19, let's not forget, market started moving again. But unfortunately, COVID struck, and everything went down. So it's been a very difficult market for tankers, especially for us. But as you say, the last year and a half has been great, especially for the product tanker segment. I'm sure for our cousins at the crude as well.
Big cousins, yeah.
The big cousins. But if I may add to what Annika said, we have an environment which is volatile, but at the same time, we have good prospects coming. The order book seems good. And let's not forget that demand is there increasing by 3% annually, especially for refined products. So it's a good story developing. Let's not forget the growth of ton miles. And this is very important. This is changing the environment for the tanker segment.
Okay. George, there's an S&P broker recently. I've been seeing, sorry, there's two Georges here. This George first, George Mangos, and I'll come over to George Yourulkos shortly. As an S&P broker, I've been seeing a huge inquiry for chemical tankers in the last few weeks. I mean, I know this is something that you follow quite closely. What do you think is the reason behind that?
Thank you. I think the momentum, just echoing again what the previous speakers were saying, the momentum was certainly there for the tankers pre-COVID. The period through COVID, I think, if anything, really helped us to an extent, because really in shipping it's all about supply. So the fact that during COVID the containers surged ahead, followed by dry bulk with tankers sort of lagging, allowed the supply picture from the new building yards, which have all pretty much restricted their supply over the course of since the last big boom. It allowed us to be in a position where we could have this very, very restricted supply for the foreseeable future. That said, the dark clouds, and if I may take a digression here and sort of
please do
elaborate on this. I think tankers are in a slightly, my reading, and I could be entirely wrong, and are far greater experts in all of these three fields, certainly, than I would be. My perspective on this is that tankers have benefited enormously from the war economics. This separation of the supply chains between, let's just call them aligned and non-aligned countries, has driven tremendous ton mile, has restricted the supply, and this picture is likely to persist. I feel that perhaps the other two sectors are more exposed, also because they have the supply side picture, but also because personally I'm very, very bearish on the global economy. I think if we just take and I know that this is very kind of selective cherry picking of data, or not even data, or sort of opinions on it, but if we look at Europe first, in the countries in the north of Europe where there are higher percentages of free-floating mortgages, we're seeing a very severe impact on residential real estate. Commercial real estate also. commercial real estate is particularly exposed because being a platinum asset for so many years, the banks aren't really prepared for the kind of provisions that they need to do with this structural change of working from home, and this repricing hasn't yet worked its way into the economy. At the heart of Europe, we have Germany, which has found itself on the back foot with two economic megatrends, one being exporting to China, and the other being the cheap import of energy from Russia. So if we sort of roll around the globe, we see the United States has been, I think, amazingly resilient in the face of a lot of challenges. That may start to crack next year. We'll see how the commercial real estate lands. And in Asia, the big story in my view is China. And it's such an important factor for all of the trades. China, the situation is much worse, I think, than most people realize. And we are perhaps a little more attuned to it because we work closely with a lot of institutional capital. And some of our partners, some of our clients are very, very large investors in the Chinese markets. And the picture that they describe to us is pretty dire.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm going to...
I'll stop there.
Don't
Sorry.
worry. Because we're going to be discussing the macroeconomics and the geopolitical stuff and all those other things that mix in a little later on. And I know that you have insights. But Aristides, I was looking at your fleet. I'm going to talk about dry at the moment because your container fleet horrifies me. Okay? But on the dry fleet, could I describe your fleet as being grain-centric? Would that be fair? That you're focusing, those types of ships has a focus on the grain trades? Especially as I understand that you like period charters and you like to fix out on these ships. Is that a fair thing to say? And is that where you...
Not really.
Okay, well, then correct me, please.
Not really. Our dry bulk fleet consists of Ultramaxes and Kamsarmaxes mainly, and Panamaxes. So it is the medium spectrum which carry most cargoes. It's not confined to grains. Grains is one of the cargoes, but we carry all other bulk cargo. And as a company, our idea has always been to diversify a little bit and to be in a sector where we don't depend on one single country, one single commodity. We try and play markets that we know are quite liquid markets. So you can buy and sell quite easily a dry bulk vessel of this size. So that is the reason we are in that sector. We think that we can play the markets. The markets overall, if you buy a ship today and you keep it for 20 years, you will get a medium return, right? 5, 6, 7%, and with risks, and provided that you have a strong enough balance sheet to support it during difficult times. The way to make money is by timing your acquisitions and timing your sales right. So we have always tried to play in markets where there is this liquidity.
Okay, I mean, and you would describe that liquidity with the charter markets as well, the same thing, where you can go short and long and...
You can go short and long. There's a lot of charterers there to choose from. This is a very liquid market. Then you might ask me, why are you in containers, which is not a liquid market anymore?
Well, we'll come on to that in a second, I think. But okay. The prospects for the dry then, because obviously you've had a post-COVID boom like the other sectors in some ways, and there's some kind of talk in the market that is it or isn't it? What do you think of the prospects for the dry market generally?
I don't really like this question because the answer is impossible. I like...
Okay, can I just ask you a question then? Yeah. Why do people always ask brokers the same question?
I'll ask the question, but I won't provide the answer.
Yeah, I share your pain, let's put it that way.
Okay? That's fine, that's fine. But really, we are in this... the idea here in this business from, the 30 years of experience I have is you can't really guess what will happen. Who predicted what would follow, that COVID would come? And then when it came, who predicted what the results would be? Who predicted the wars that we are facing? Nobody predicts all that. We try and analyze and look at this and that. It's impossible to guess demand. Supply is possible to guess, but for the next couple of years, it's not a long-term period enough. So I don't like this question.
Okay, thank you. Noted, and I apologize a little bit, okay? George Roukos, I saw this interesting figure the other day, which stuck in my mind, 27%. 27% of the order book is containers. 27% of the order book is gas carriers, LNG mostly. And 27% is bulk and tanker combined. Does that mean that the bulk market is going to be able to control that supply troubles that they always have, do you think? I mean, you're known as an astute buyer of bulk carriers. If you allow me to compliment you on this, I've been following your purchases in the past. And I think, do you think that this helps you as an owner in the future, being that low up until, say, 26, 27?
Well, the order book... The order book is obviously very large. Now, in our ships, because of the type of trade that we have, not every container can do every trade. So it very much depends where the order book is focused versus the existing fleet. But I believe that the container market is entering turmoil for at least a couple of years. And that turmoil might become quite severe, depends on the macroeconomic, which I'm not really in a position to predict. I don't think anyone can predict from us here the macroeconomics. Not even the economists cannot predict it, as we have seen in many cases. The supply is what we can look at, and like Aristide said, we can only look at it for the next couple of years, because unfortunately, when the market is great, we all make mistakes and order ships, which is a grave mistake, but we continuously do it, time after time, as if, there is a chip into the head of the people that deletes wisdom when they make money. And then when they have money, they immediately...
Then I am very wise.
Yeah, then they feel that there is a hole burning into their pocket, and they want to get rid of the money. I mean, money, you can buy yachts, you can buy houses, you can entertain yourself. You don't need to buy ships. Unfortunately, people buy ships when they have too much money, and then they stop to have too much money.
Well, they have to keep shipbrokers alive, I think, too, which is very important, you understand. Philippos, you've got so much, no, not you personally, you're a very humble man, I know, but the company itself still has a huge container fleet, and you've been using some of your spare cash to go after capes. This is a completely different thing, because Aristides and George in the kind of, as they said, medium range, in the Supramax, Ultramax, Kamsarmax, Panamax size, but you've just gone straight to the most volatile segment. Can you explain a bit what was your thinking on this?
Yeah, obviously for us, we always had the motto, bigger is better. We had that in the container fleet when we're doing same in the dry bulk sector. No, actually, yeah, of course it was thought of, and the reason is that we saw capes, we saw the very limited, obviously, order book across the Schengen, capes specifically. We saw the cargo flows of 2023 and the projections of 2024, which seemed a bit stable and maybe cautiously optimistic, let's say, for next year. And of course, in dry, it's all about entry point. So I think that we timed it correctly, and we entered the market, I wouldn't say at the lowest point, but at pretty low points, and that's key when you do so and when you invest in dry. So I think we did. And actually, we're reaping some of the fruit now, like in the recent hype that we see in capes and the rates. Obviously, it's not going to last forever, and it's highly volatile. And one of the reasons is we have such strong cash flow visibility from the container side on our bigger ships up until 2028, let's say. And investors see that, and we're a publicly listed company, so we thought that we should also invest in something that is quite volatile at the same time, so mix and match.
So it's a volatility play. You're trading the capes on the spot market.
Currently, we're trading them spot, yes, on a voyage basis.
So this is like container ships, I imagine. You find a charter and then you get a nice few months charter, and then it's nice and easy and a few operations messages.
Actually, we're doing it on a voyage basis, so no, everything we do in-house, our bunkering and everything else, so it's quite different from us because containers were always time chartered. So it is kind of a new process because we hadn't had a dry fleet since 2006. But we're back at it, and we have faith in our team internally, and I think we're going to do a good job at it as we do in our core container business.
Okay. As well, size matters, Philippos, apparently. Okay.
Always.
But container shipping. Let's switch back to container shipping. I mean, you've got a very large fleet, and one thing that I've noticed is that you've got some very big ships in the existing fleet, but the order book you have at the moment, you're not going for the bigger sizes, or the biggest sizes, let's say. I mean, they're big, but they're not as big. Again, is that driven by you as the NIOS, as an investor looking at where you think the market is, or has this been driven by the lines and by your charterers, your partnerships there?
It's not a simple answer, but I would agree with Mr. George Geroukos before, saying that, of course, the order book is pretty large. We've seen much larger order book before in container shipping, like 68% back in the day. But in any case, it's size-focused, so the main orders for ships were predominantly made by the liner companies themselves, and in larger core assets, what they call. What is large 10 years ago and what is large today is very different. So the very, very big ships that can only trade in specific trade lanes predominantly have been ordered by our customers. So, and the nature of the business has changed. So, of course, we believe in fleet renewal, of course, and regulations coming in. We have ordered a couple of ships ourselves, yes. So when you order speculatively, not on the backbone of a charter with your own money, you want to order a ship which you think in 2 years' time will be needed, and that your customers are not really focused now, but will in the future. So consciously, we chose that midsection where we think it's going to be a volatile section. Let's call it the Neo-Panamax space.
Okay. George Geroukos, I'm coming back to you. Obviously, you said that the coming turmoil in the container market is predicted or predictable. Is this a good buying opportunity for a company like you, do you think, to increase the fleet as you go forward?
Well, it's foreseeable, not predictable.
Okay, fine. Okay.
I would say that we all want to, have a good market, make good money, and then we want to have a bust so we can use this good money to buy some good opportunities. Because if the market stays strong, then, okay, yes, we may milk the cows, the ships that we have, but we cannot grow unless prices slump. So I think, yes, it should be an opportunity to buy ships, but it's very early, the very early innings right now. I think that we're gonna have to wait to see where the prices are going to settle for quite a while.
Aristides, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just bought a very older vessel, container ship, and you also have an order book as well. Again, not the biggest ships, but perhaps in a quite a similar space. Doesn't this, buying a very old ship, go against what we've just been talking about now, or were there specific reasons for it?
It's two different things, buying a new build ship and buying an old ship. We bought a ship, the old ship that we bought is a vessel that has a charter, a one-year charter attached to it. And during this 1 year, we will recover the whole investment price that we've paid through the charter, leaving just the scrap value at very low levels. So it's really just the positioning of some extra cash that we have, which in some case, it might if we scrap the ship after the 1 year, because the market will probably be low, just give us a 10% return on our investment. It's better than having it in the bank. But on the other hand, it's an option because you never know what happens. And whilst we all think that the market will be quite lousy for the next couple of years, if it's not, and the ship gets rechartered at any level, I think it's a very good profit for this amount of money. So we wouldn't do any other speculative deal yet and buy older second-hand container ships today at today's prices. We see the possibility of not being able to fix them within the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Alexia, you're heavily involved in ship finance and that side of the practice. Is there enough money to pay for all of this at the moment? I mean, do you see any problems about people getting hold of finance at the moment? And do you see any trends in finance agreements, new building contracts that reflect this fragmented world?
I'm happy to see on the finance side a lot of Greek banks being active and very competitive, with competitive terms. And also a trend now in the finance world is having Greece being really competitive and also Asia as well. There are new players, a lot of leasing companies, and a country that is really now into ship finance is Taiwan, what we see in the Athens office. And it's really interesting to see how the Athens office has a lot of work coming from Asia, instructing us to act for them.
And is this lease financing? Or
it's lease financing and pure loan agreements, yes. Another trend that is, we have a lot of work now for new buildings because, of course, due to all the sustainability and decarbonization, also banks want to ensure that they finance a younger vessel. So this, but also there is finance for everyone because the ones that have older vessels, there are funds available that can provide this finance. That's it. What was the other? I'm trying to think what is. What other? You can ask me more questions, but I cannot. That's
thank you.
A summary.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Of what we see.
George, as you said, you're in touch with a great deal of different financial organisations, both in the States and in Europe and elsewhere. I mean, do you see any new trends, at least in the financing model, in terms of how ship owners finance their ships and how the fleet will be financed going forward?
I think if we split them into secondary lenders and primary lenders, I think the unexpected challenge that secondary lenders, in fact all lenders are facing today, is very rapid repayment of loans. That is, to echo the unpredictable consequences that sometimes you come across. This was not one that we had anticipated. So if we go back a few years, the rise of the secondary lenders was extremely important because we started to see the big mortgage banks starting to focus more and more on the idea of balance sheet lending rather than asset-backed lending. And there was a concern, of course, at the time, I think widely shared concern, that we would not be able to plug this gap. Yet it has been plugged and there's been ample money. So now in the landscape, we're actually seeing people in the secondary lending space competing
I think that's what
very hard.
That's a Freudian slip there, George.
Yeah.
Secondary landing. Yes, okay. I hope it's soft for you. Sorry.
Yes. So it's a very healthy environment, I would say right now. I think generally speaking, leverage levels are very low across the entire industry. There's a quite rapid sort of repayment of debt. There is a lot of availability. Either you're structured in a way that you can attract balance sheet lending, or if you don't or you can't, then you've got asset-backed solutions. So it's a solid environment right now.
Okay. Annika, you've heard finance is available. money, if not growing on trees, is certainly available from many different sources. Greek banks are the most aggressive, I would suggest, these days for traditional mortgage bank financing, and there's all sorts of other options. Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong. But doesn't this go against all the other bad stuff that we're reading? Higher inflation, higher interest rates. You know, is this the magic money tree drying up? Do you think this will carry on going? Because, you know, obviously in your research, you're looking at the demand side as well. And the demand side, I guess, is going to be looking at high oil prices, for example, and restriction, as you mentioned, potentially next week of further production cuts, and inflation being higher for longer and interest rates being higher for longer. Doesn't this kind of bite the hand that feeds the shipping market? Would you know, by it being a good market, but the actual, the demand for ships is going to go down. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're quite right to point these things out. We are certainly seeing, and those are probably the dark clouds on the horizon, if I pick up that point again, where we are seeing the particularly high inflation rates and, as you said, higher for longer, which appears to be a continuous theme, and where we are seeing at the moment, certainly within Europe, for this to be held up at these levels at the moment, while we are still trying to reach an acceptable inflation rate of about 2%. Similar within the US, although slightly different numbers are coming from the area, but at the moment on that level, there certainly are concerns, for sure. Now, in terms of the demand, we are seeing demand certainly on the GDP level to grow, albeit at a slower pace, as certainly what we wish for, but what was also previously predicted. So there has been a little bit of a downwards trending on that side. But on the oil demand side, for example, for this year, it's actually been quite healthy, and a lot of people were actually surprised by the oil demand growth for this year, which has certainly helped in part for China to come out from their zero COVID policy. That has, to bring it back onto my area of expertise, seen a lot of high crude imports as well over the last 6 months or so. So there have been some positives that have come with it, but yeah, there are certain risks to the downside that remain. Now, having said that, and having briefly touched upon already China and the building crisis, as it were, in the country, that of course is something that should be very closely followed going forward as well, which of course affects the dry bulk sector a lot as well, but also on the tanker side, that is something that we are looking into and keeping a keen eye on.
But that feeds in, I mean, I'm going to start but moving into that shortly, but
have I gone too far?
Just want to talk to Aristides and Eddie about this. Just capital markets. I mean, you're both listed companies. There's not. You've been listed for many years, and you know what you're doing it for. But do you think that in the future there's any chance that the capital market tap will get turned on and shipping will, or maybe put it the other way, suddenly people will look and say, shipping, wow, should we do something about that? Because I haven't seen much of that recently.
There you go. That was the capital markets coming back. No, it's not happening yet, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but as we discussed before, life is cyclical and therefore stable. So we will see a return in the capital markets. There will be an opportunity at some point. It might take longer, but I don't see why not. When When the markets are strong for maybe a year or so, the capital markets need to see something that lasts a little bit. When maybe some of the smaller companies are not around anymore, and we have a few big, strong companies, I think that we will see a renaissance of capital flowing into the capital markets and into the stronger companies. And the ones that have established a record of being professional, correct, and timing the market quite well. Because the returns overall for the shipping companies, as I said, are very, very significant.
Okay.
I'm sure Aristides didn't mean a small company looking at us.
Even us, even us.
Yeah, I mean, capital markets, it's been really difficult the last years. It has given us more opportunities to raise capital during the bad market, the bad tanker market, than the good tanker market. Let me explain. The last 18 months, Aristides said, we need to see a sustainable market for 1 year. Well, the tanker market has been good for more than 18 months, and the capital markets have not responded, especially for our stock. So it means...
Eddie, but for the bigger companies, they did approach the NAV valuation, a level that they could do something.
Maybe the smaller companies.
For the smaller companies...
They have not given us the appreciation. Therefore, it looks like being a pure play company doesn't make sense in case you're a small company. This is the reason we diversified, and this is something that we recently did. We moved into the dry bulk segment, looking for the appreciation from the investors. We appreciate that they have given us the opportunity to raise capital, but now it's the time to move on and try to grow the company the way we know how to grow it.
Do you see that, Alexia, that there's little demand or little exploration either into exploring capital markets or the capital markets exploring shipping? Do you get many instructions or inquiries on that basis?
We do not necessarily that they are going to enter the capital markets now, but yes, we do. Or some.
It's like keeping it warm.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I've noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that we've been tiptoeing around a subject which can only be described as the elephant in the room. And I will give this elephant the label of geopolitics. Because for good or bad, it is something which is really significantly crucial at the moment for how we can't talk about the future of shipping markets without talking about the development of the fleet or the fragmentation of the fleet. One of the things that I would just like to ask, just because for those of you that are owning and operating and managing ships, is that the horrific spectacle of ships being attacked and targeted as collateral in the conflicts taking place. I mean, I can imagine it affects you personally and emotionally, but have you had to start looking at, apart from things like war risk and stuff like that, have you started to have to look at different ways of thinking about managing and owning, operating, chartering the ships as well? Is this and I'd like to ask all of the ship managers here. George, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, we just had 3 of our ships changing the route between going instead of through Med and Suez around the Cape to avoid attacks from Hamas, because the ships were chartered to an Israeli charter. So yeah, we see some changes in that. It doesn't affect us economically. It does affect our charters. Then again, we have the dry bulk ships where, you know, to charter a ship to a Russian entity, you have to go through, I don't know, the big, $1 million question: is this okay? Is not okay? Is this okay? Is not okay? Is the cargo okay? Is the mother of the agent not sanctioned? Is it, the underwear, what color is it, of the pilot that will come on board, and so on and so forth.
As long
So
as
it's
clean,
mission
George.
impossible to charter. I mean, this has become difficult. And, and maybe you're just carrying food. You may be carrying grain. So it shouldn't be that as difficult, but unfortunately it is.
Steedis, you agree?
I agree. This is affecting mostly Israeli guys and people dealing with Russia today. But we have had incidents like that in the past. We had the piracy in Somalia 10, 15 years ago, and that was a huge problem. And shipping has to adapt to whatever is happening all the time, and one has to be quick and flexible and open-minded and really study the situation to take a decision. It has happened before, it's happening now, it will happen again in some other form. It happened with Venezuela, so it happens.
Yeah.
You have to live with that.
Philippos.
Well, I think on the topic, Aristidis and Mr. Yuroko said it all. Of course, we're experiencing the same issues, obviously with the same charter as well. So it's one charter who's Israeli in containers. So they had, since it's on time charter, they had to reroute the ships via Good Hope and other places and avoid the Red Sea at all costs. Obviously, we're following guidelines, and what you can only do is discuss with your charter what the best measures are in order to support them in this hurdle that they're undergoing in every single level, personal, business-wise, whatever that is. So we're trying to postpone dry docks, for example, and try to do different things that will assist them in every mean in order for this to be overcome as soon as possible. So definitely we're seeing this, and we're addressing it as much as we can. For the dry fleet, it's capes, so we don't really trade in the areas, so it doesn't really affect us, to be honest.
I sometimes wonder whether or not what we're seeing at the moment, is as a preview for what could happen, should we say, further out in the east. Tensions between Taiwan and China, and similar freedom of navigation issues there. George, you talked about earlier about China and how you think it's a real threat, and people think it's not as benign as it looks from your contacts and so on. I mean, is this a worry for you as well? I mean geopolitically in terms of demand and geopolitically in terms of ships themselves.
Yeah, Mr. Bad News will take another crack at this. But, to return to where I left off, I know that the situation in China is much worse than is coming out. And I know this because, as I was saying, some of our core investors have lost billions and billions. They've had their portfolios wiped out. You see the Chinese are very adapted to trying to sort of, change and come to terms, let's say, with a new set of circumstances. One of the things, for example, that they've done is, in the space of a summer, they've instituted an entire body of law for restructuring of real estate that didn't exist before in China. Now they have it. I think the most significant thing, though, so there's not all kind of bad news, is that the US and China have both realized or have come to terms with the importance of their marriage, for want of a better way to describe it. And there was a very important meeting a few days ago in San Francisco, as you probably all know. The information that we're sort of receiving from that is that the intention from the US government and from the Chinese government was to de-escalate the situation. They said we have many, many fires right now. We have a kind of slow, not even a cold war anymore, a kind of hot war that's surfacing all over the world, particularly in Africa, which of course we don't hear a great deal about on a day-to-day basis. So the idea is let's, as the two largest economies of the world, let's come together, let's calm down the tensions. The Chinese, I understand, have made some commitments, some made the noises that they were not intending to do anything around Taiwan for the foreseeable future. And I think one of the most incredible things that sort of came out of it, a kind of soft signal, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, TikTok was considered by the American government to be the devil. We must root it out.
This is TikTok.
This is the social media platform, TikTok.
This is an app popular with children.
Exactly, popular with
young people.
Yeah, okay. So we've moved from that situation of it has to be ripped out root and branch to the US administration committing to TikTok being the central platform of their social media strategy for the next presidential campaign, which is really quite incredible. And so, anyway, I think that that's all a signal that the two largest economies have decided to step back from the brink, and that's, I think, going to be good for everyone.
Alexia, I was in Germany recently, and I was talking to some people. They were telling me that they're putting in clauses into new building contracts and some finance contracts, which can also only be described, I guess, as super force majeure. I was trying to get, that they are very worried about the political risk, because it's quite difficult to, acts of princes these days is a little archaic, I guess, as a legal term. Have you seen an increase in that, in new building business, or in similar finance arrangements with our Asian friends?
Not in finance arrangements, but in shipbuilding contracts, yes. But there's a lot of negotiating, and
is it the buyers that want to have a get out of jail free card if anything happens at all, and it's the builders that are saying no?
Exactly.
Well, it's a builder's market, right?
Yes.
The market is so tight at the moment, which you can't really dictate the terms. The only thing you can really do is sit back and just make a wish and try to have the best relationship possible, built through over and over for many years with your Chinese or whatever Asian counterpart that is, and hope for the best. I mean, it's not really a time where you can actually really dictate terms with the yard, in my opinion.
Okay. Where are we? Oh, hello. You've got a microphone there on your seat there.
Hi. I would like to ask Alexia if she could give us some examples.
It will come at a cost. The bill will come tomorrow, okay? So I know what they're like. Alexia.
Yes. I cannot give some examples because I'm doing the loan agreements and the ship finance side, but of course my colleagues who deal with the negotiations with the Asia can definitely provide
and
this.
You'll find them on 210. 210 plus. Okay, thank you, John. Anyway, Annika, and yet the oil seems to flow freely, and yet I guess it's liquid, it's easier to flow. But there's coming back to, we touched on it here, but Russia out of Baltic, and Russia diesel bans not becoming diesel bans, and then oil coming out of Novorossiysk, which may or may not be Russian, but it could be from one of the stands, and then and so on and so forth. Isn't this really affecting how the tanker market? Isn't this the reason why that the tanker market is doing so well? And isn't this one of the reasons why, should we say, certain actors in the geopolitical frame are not in a hurry to find a resolution?
Russia and the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, of course, had a lot of changes for the tanker market in store, and that it's for crude as well as for product tankers. And as was briefly mentioned earlier or touched upon, One of the things that had happened is a redirection of trade flows. And it was a redirection of trade flows for, as you said, for example, diesel out of the Baltic that previously went to Europe on a grand scale, that then had to find new buyers, but also Europe, of course, had to find new sources for this diesel. And on that note, Europe is still, to a certain degree, struggling with that, because one of the reasons is that diesel, the winter specification of diesel is very specific. And not every refinery can just, or any diesel is the same diesel that is needed for the winter. So at the moment, all eyes are going towards the Middle East, for example, to see whether yet again in what is potentially another mild winter, there's enough capacity there to produce, because at the moment the inventories are also quite low. Now, on the crude side, of course, there has also been a massive diversion of the oil flows in a similar way, different direction, and with a lot of the crude now going famously to India, for example, a lot of that is re-refined there, and the products, diesel, is being re-exported from India back to the European sphere, but also on a lot of vessels going out to the Far East, famously China, for example. Now, what did that have in store for us is ton-mile changes on an upwards level. And the way that the situation is there geopolitically, at the moment, sadly, there's no end in sight, but that means also prolonged changes of trade flows and continued ton-mile increases at the moment for the coming year. So amongst the dark clouds, there are plenty of rays of sunshine, actually.
Okay. Eddie, it's intrigued me. MR's diesel listed company. Is it easy to take advantage of somebody that's not supposed to be trading in the dark trades to take advantage of the rest of the market at the same time?
I don't know what you mean by taking advantage, but
is there enough
definitely we're getting a discount to the grey fleet, if that is what you're saying. Yes, we are getting a discount, we know that, but knowingly we are not trading in Russia because we don't want to do it as a company. Even under price cap or anything. So we're not doing it knowingly, but market gives you other opportunities. As Annika said, the growth in ton miles has been tremendous this year and is projected for next year, according to a certain broker, up to be 6% growth. So it's a substantial improvement, and we believe that this will move the market for everybody, not just for the grey fleet.
Do you see any of these things, George, on the dry side, being a private company? Do you see, I mean, you talked earlier about what is sanctioned and what isn't sanctioned and what is grey or what isn't grey. I mean, you've mentioned that this is a bureaucratic problem. Are you able to are you able to profit by taking that risk of looking at the underwear of the pilot's wife, or whatever it is you said earlier?
Actually, I'm also a public company.
I'm sorry.
So
which is, sorry, just for my guidance, which is public? The
GSL.
Okay.
All right. So, and I'll tell you also something on the public sector. I didn't want to interrupt, but yes, capital markets can view the public shipping companies as a good buy, even today, and they have been. It's right what Aristidis and our other colleague Philippos has said, that capital markets are coming and going, but still within where we are today, there might be an interest in specific companies, depending on the situations which are completely different than the situations that we feel as ship owners. The main investors are hedge funds, and hedge funds have different reasons why to buy a stock or not buy a stock, trade a stock up or down versus others. That is a small parenthesis. I'd like to say also that I'm saying that because, as a matter of fact, funny enough, yesterday Reuters announced that our company is between the 14% most profitable companies of the New York Stock Exchange. Yeah, strange. I wouldn't believe it I myself either, to be honest. But it's...
Well, if there's any yacht brokers in the room, perhaps, or swimming pool manufacturers, I mean, you're in the market.
Yeah.
You don't want to order any ships, do you? God help you.
Yeah, I'm just reading you. George Yurgos, chairman of Global Ship Lease, is top 14% of price performance of New York Stock Exchange stocks in past week, Sunday, November 26. So I didn't believe it myself. So I wouldn't expect it to be, but what I'm trying to say is that hedge funds can play our stocks for different reasons that we think as ship owners that we shouldn't or they should. Okay, now, going to your other question about profiting, of course we do profit when we can, within the limits of being correct. First, ethically, so I don't find it unethical to move food cargo, regardless of who the owner is, because I think it's food. I would find it unethical to move cargo that is, something different than food, if it's not proper. And I have to be also very careful because of my position in a public company. So, yes, we have to go through layers and layers of lawyers, and it's, lawyers' best time. Every charter, we have to pay a lot of legal fees to make sure that we can take the charter. But may I be a bit of a strange guy and hijack the question, the conversation? We have a lot of young people up there, and we've been talking a lot about what the market is and what is. Why don't we turn around and ask them what they want to ask us about it, since they're going to be joining in shipping, and we want these guys to be joining in shipping, shipping companies. Maybe they have to ask some questions from us.
Well, we were coming on to that, but I think this is, I think the geopolitical stuff is a thing very much on people's minds. So if anybody has any specific questions, okay, I'm sorry, I have to ban people at this particular point over the age of 50. I apologize. And if that is the case, you are all over the age of 50, okay? I'm sorry. However hard you try, okay? Okay, I'm going to allow me to... Simon. Are you finding it hot? Yeah, I'm finding it hot. Oh, it's you. Okay. You've got a microphone there. You should have a microphone down there somewhere.
Hello. Okay. If I might introduce first myself, my name is Captain Stelios Mourtzanos. I'm from Eurotankers. Okay, I'm a merely observator of the ongoing situation, and obviously the whole market has been geopolitically shaken through the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and most recent the Israeli conflict. How is this going, let's say, speculatively to end, since Europe is now inserting environmental regulations that's actually telling ship owners to go away from Europe and trade to other markets in order to gain the capital they need? Thank you.
Anyone want to take that? You give it to the liner guys, because they're the ones that have to come. So we're talking about, on one side, CII, on the other side, EU ETS, and we're talking about, okay, EU ETS. It's going to happen in about 32 days' time when we start moving on that. Is this the future, or is this an alternative to CII, or is this basically an obstacle to trade in and out of Europe? Anyone? I guess that's what you're saying, yeah? More or less, okay.
May I?
Please.
Sorry. I think the CII is the rating. Now the EU ETS is the bill. Let's put it simply. So in one way, yes, the SIP is good or bad, but now let's pay for it. If it's not good, how much are you going to pay? So I think that the EU ETS is going to stay. It's going to add it's going to add cost of transportation to the goods going to Europe or from Europe, obviously, unless the rest of the world takes over and then it's uniform, and then that doesn't matter. But as long as it's only in Europe, I think that obviously we will have to pass on the cost of the EU ETS, whether it's a dry bulk or our customers, the liner companies, passing the box to the box freight rate, the EU ETS they have to pay. So yeah, I think it's something that is going to stay, and it's going to be. Something else I might add, which might make the conversation interesting, is I see Haris Antonio in the audience, who is a good financier, very old and knowledgeable. So I will ask him, maybe he knows to enlighten us. There is this Net Zero Banking Alliance. Are you familiar, Haris? This is a problem coming to us on finding finance, because the banks that align themselves with this Net Zero Banking Alliance, they are required not to lend money to ships that will not be net zero pollution by 2050 and 50% reduction from today by 2030. So in like 6 years, we have to, the clients of the banks that assigned to, that subscribe to this will have to have 50% reduction in pollution, which is not possible, as we all know. It's impossible. And I see that this is going to restrict the mainstream banks in lending. That's what I understand from speaking to them also. So that is going to be a problem for our industry, which obviously is going to be shifting the mainstream banks into other areas which do not, banks that have not signed this alliance. Voila.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, George, thanks for passing the ball on to me. To answer for the bankers, I'm not a banker anymore, but there you have it. It's, you're absolutely right that there is pressure on the banking community overall. But that pressure is coming also from society at the end of the day. And, you know, if shipping companies have signed up to the IMO 2050 declaration, it means that they also have to strive to achieve the IMO targets. Now, how feasible they are to meet or not, you know, that's anybody's guess. A lot of discussion around this tells us that it's not feasible. But there is a distinction between zero and net zero. So, and that's where, you know, that's where we have to focus, because there are ways to achieve net zero without emitting zero. And I think most companies actually have to probably figure out ways of managing to secure carbon allowances or emission rights, et cetera, that would still allow them to trade. So that's one way of doing it. Another way, obviously, is through retrofits that would reduce the footprint of each vessel. And at the end of the day, if you look at the 2050 trajectory, essentially what it means is that you need to be on the curve or below the curve. You don't need to be the best in class. And you don't need to burn only, you know, the most sustainable fuel around for the whole duration of every trip. You can actually, you know, opt in or out depending on which zone you're trading in, et cetera, but I'm sure you guys know these things better than I do. I will make one last comment, but I don't want to hijack the discussion. Yes, banks are signing up to it. Not all of them have, but more and more as we go along. But I have to say, because we're also working with banking institutions, that the question about the environment is not as stringent and as it seems to be. I think there are ways that the banks are trying to accommodate the clients in achieving the targets. But I agree with your statement that it's only going to get harder. The silver lining, of course, in all this is that there are newcomers in the business like Neptune Maritime Leasing and others that are able to support ship owners in their
You can find them on 210, etc., etc.
Nigel, may I add a couple of points here on what has just been said? First, on the EU ETS, I think we will have teething problems, of course, but I think it's a step in the right direction. At the end of the day, if it only applies in Europe, it is the European customer that will pay that at the end of the day. That's only fair. We are a very rich continent compared to all the others. So it's fair to lead, and I'm really supporting that. So that's the comment on that. And yes, we need measures like this to push the market towards the innovative solutions. We have to be paying something because otherwise the markets don't work. So on the EU ETS, that's fine. And on what you said on the banking system, indeed the banking system with the Poseidon principles was one of the first movers and supporters of cleaner vessels, and it's been helpful. But the banks have been extremely realistic. Up to now, they really accept to lend to nearly everybody, and if you're green or you have a sustainability-linked loan, they just give you, 5 basis points, 10 maximum basis points better than the others. So the rhetoric is there. We need that rhetoric for the whole planet and for the whole industry to plan forward. But the commercial steps that are taken by ship owners, by bankers, by fuel producers, by everybody, are small steps. Now, let's see where it will lead us.
Okay, thank you. Right, first of all, over there.
Yeah, I was just going to add.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yep, my name is Hiti. I'm from ICS Australia branch, and I work in a mining sector. This is a very interesting topic which you guys have raised. So I know that there is a Australian platform called RightShip, and most of you guys would have heard about that platform. These guys have been discussing.
I think we're all aware of RightShip. Yeah. And if you, I can arrange police protection afterwards.
Okay. So RightShip has been in touch with a lot of banks, especially Australian and also some in London, which I know that they're closely working, that how efficient the ships are, and based on that, that funding can be done. So that is probably coming in near future.
Can I take this one, please, as an S&P broker? May I? Just as a thing. Okay, first of all, does RightShip actually ever talk to the owners and access their own data? No, they are getting it from other stuff. Second of all, when you have buyers of ships buying ships on the basis of greenhouse gas ratings by a company that's got no understanding of the operations of the ships, it gets me very cross. The final thing that gets me very cross as an S&P broker on your behalf, I'm sorry, is when buyers come along and ask, what's the CII rating of that ship? Malaki is in there, okay. And I will tell you why. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be overtaking this, but it gets me very cross. I mean, every once in a while I do it. I will tell you why. Because I've got an owner with 2 ships, sister ships. We bought them together. Exactly the maker's list, yard, and everything else. One CII rating is B. The other one is E. Why is the B? The B is because it's been trading nice long trips to and from China, Brazil, nice long ballast legs. The other one, the E, was stuck in Ukraine for 6 months and then went to dry dock. Okay, tell me how that works and how any of this helps. I'm sorry. That's my own point of view. So I will hijack you then. And by the way, greenhouse gas rating doesn't even access the owner's own data, the manager's own data. They just have their own little thing and that's it, and it's supposed to be good, and ka-ching, they get paid for it. So that's my own point of view. Nikos, and then Dimitris.
Congratulations to Natalia. Where was it? When we started, I was among the first signatures to bring ICS to Greece, to Hellenic Management Center. Bravo. Greenhouse and stuff. If you read Tradewinds a few weeks ago, Chevron made an investment in near Trinidad for $67 billion to start drilling, and they will produce oil in 4 years. That's about green stuff. I was in Izmir on an oil refining and trading conference the other day, and 90 out of 110 participants were Russian names. So I approached them, Здравствуйте, как у вас дела? I started talking to them, and they said, I said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Dubai. The other one was from Kazakhstan. The other one was from Turkey. All the addresses. And these guys are doing business. It's not Russian. It's UAE. And we are working with them happily. When is this hide and seek going to stop, do you think?
Anyone want to take that? George? I mean, okay, I think I've said enough. Okay, so
may I say the response from lawyers on sanctions, this is not sanctioned, it's low risk, medium risk, high risk. That's always the answer. So I think that tells you a lot about it.
George, the other George. Sorry, there's two Georges here.
I mean, ultimately speaking, we're all pawns in a great game. And we all play our role. And sometimes it's, we make money on it, and sometimes we don't, and so on. I think the most important thing, well, the simple answer is when it is politically expedient to cut the Russians out. For now, if we cut the Russians out, I think, as we all understand, the global economy collapses. So it's not going to be anytime soon. But I would say that the word of caution is that at some point, the curtain may well come down. And when it does, the people who are counting, they're not going to care whether you were supportive of their system or you did your part for global trade. No, they will say, you were on this side of it, and you're cut out. So that's the word of caution.
Dimitri, you had a question.
Yes. As the left parties, they say that the normality is not an opportunity for the left, it was said. For the shipping, disruptions are opportunities, as we have seen in the recent years. And for the next year, I was widely attracted by what my friend George Mango said about the geopolitics. And it came up into my mind that in November next year, we have US elections. And we have the possible re-election of the Ginger Man. Can you see something as a black swan for shipping this development? Or what other black swans we may have in the coming year in order to sail with wisdom and...
Okay, we're going to have a quick fire round here because we're nearing the end, and there's a couple of things I want to go through. So I'm going to go through the black swans. Everybody, you ready? Okay, Annika.
That's a very interesting question. Thanks for that. And this actually latches on a little bit to what the gentleman here on my left was saying earlier about. Well, basically, my job about, predicting the market is just not possible. And so is the black swan, by definition, is, of course, a black swan. From the tanker market, I can tell you that we are very closely watching on the US elections. But the US are, of course, not the only elections. We have the Venezuela elections, who just recently, for a brief period of time, 6 months, lifted sanctions, so the developments to watch on that. and Mexican elections, so a lot going on there in the Americas. And I think the question that was raised earlier on what's going on in the South China Sea is something to be watched closely. And if you've read the news recently, you will have seen that Australia is also trying to make amends and trying to make also alliances much more in the area. So I think that is another area to be watched. And of course, further developments within the Middle East, for sure.
George? George, why?
Yeah, why? I'm a very religious man. Every night I go to bed, before I go to bed I pray. In my prayers, I pray that the rain completely stops in the Panama area, as it has reduced, so this bloody canal dries up for the next 5 years and there's no Panama Canal. That would be my prayer, and black swan. Not black, white swan.
Well, my only black swan is that we have a global recession, and what can drive that, I really don't know, but if it happens, it's bad for all the sectors of shipping. And, you know, George said one nice white swan. There are also many other white swans that we could have. The container blocking Suez is another one that was good for some time.
And it's good for
so there are many white swans that can appear, but there are black swans, and who knows what they will be.
Eddie, your black
I mean, you know, the persistence of inflation, although we see that the inflationary pressures are coming off, the insistence of inflation will definitely create a situation, an economic situation which will be difficult to deal with. So I guess this is a black swan. And I mean, I don't know what is the situation with Iran and the Middle East, etc., and whether this will escalate. I guess that if it escalates, this will create a big problem for everybody.
Okay, thank you. George M.
I hate to say it, but I think the biggest black swan for tanker shipping, at least, would be the reversal of sanctions on Russia. If the war ends, the ton mile will be demolished.
Okay, so that's...
If the sanctions end, because the war may end, but the sanctions are likely to persist.
Yeah. Okay. Philippos?
I mean, for us, inflation is the biggest issue. We're a consumer-oriented segment, so it's all about spending. And obviously, a recession gloom does not help. So that's the biggest swan. I think, you know, supply is known, but demand is the critical point in shipping. So for us, that's the swan. Now on Trump, of course, he has been flopping and flopping so many times. It doesn't mean what he did before, he will do it again. So it's meant to be seen, really.
Okay, Alexia.
I agree with Philippos and Eddie.
That's not a real answer. You know,
I
agree with all of you.
No,
I mean,
inflation, definitely, and also, yes, and also what we discuss about the environment and the CII and everything else regarding the environment, that if there is an increase, then it will be to the consumer. The end consumer will have to pay for everything. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the owner, the charter, it will come to the, you know, the products will increase and the pricing will rocket high.
Let me ask you, what is your view on the Panama Canal that George raised?
This is a long conversation about Panamaxes and Kamsarmaxes and post-Panamaxes and everything else. My own view is that it is great for sentiment, but obstacles in shipping are always great for sentiment. Panama Canal itself, the only thing I don't like about George Y's, I have to be differential here, George Y's thing is that also those reservoirs also supply the drinking water for 50% of the population of Panama. So it's great for shipping, but not so great for thirsty people in Panama. But generally speaking, yeah, restrictions on shipping hates efficiency when it comes down to it. When it doesn't want to reach that zero game. It wants to have those little obstacles. So that's my view on that. Now we're going to need to be finishing off quite shortly, but I've got three questioners that have been persistently nagging me. Mr. Chairman, quick fire, please. You can borrow mine. It's okay.
Hi. Oh, sorry. I'm the international chairman of the ICS. I have a question here for panel, but some of the questions I had have been already answered somehow. Yeah, I know. It goes your way, Simon. Now, basically, my main concern is, again, I mean, we're having a war, or two wars. We are having sanctions against Russia. We are having trade protections. We are having Venezuela that doesn't really, we don't know where it is. Now we have Panama. Then we have RightShip. Then we have, I mean, containerization. If we go to containerization, is again all restrictions everywhere. How do you continue thinking that shipping is the way forward? Is it because in chaos there is opportunity, or is it because, as we all in shipping believe in what we are doing?
Okay, back to front. Alexia, who would have thought that people would question the existence of shipping and why we do it?
Shipping is really important. I mean, whatever happens, I mean, products have to move. I mean, you cannot, definitely, shipping will be the last thing to end.
Okay. Philippos?
I mean, the vast majority of products, as Alexia said, goes with shipping. So if shipping ends, shopping ends, and so everything else ends. So the answer is pretty obvious.
Okay, you're preaching to the converted here, by the way. George, I mean, do I have to go through the whole lot here? I think we'll...
Probably not. You can skip me if you want. But
I think I will.
I'd like to have a word on that.
Go have a quick go, Annika, unless anybody else has a quick opinion.
And this is.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this actually goes very much in line with what my job is and what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. It is moments like these, times like these, for me, where it's really interesting. It's tough. It's very much down to, you know, coming in with a passion and coming in to the job on a day-to-day basis and see, wow, what's going to happen today? Where are things going today? And this, for me, is what my job and shipping, what makes it so interesting and what makes it so great. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You never know, whether it be black swans, RightShip, grey swans, or whatever have you. These are the moments where you can really lean in and you're going so much further than the shipping industry.
Okay, George, why?
Yeah, quick one. When you are dating a girl, a pretty girl, and then she cheats on you, do you stop dating women? No.
Well,
so,
for a while, perhaps. I mean,
you probably fall in love with this girl that cheated you, and you go after her even stronger. Shipping is not a business. Shipping is something that you have to fall in love. Otherwise, you're going to end up divorced, especially brokers. You know, a good broker is usually a divorce broker because it gives a lot of time to the job and not to the family, as we all know, right? So this business, guys, for the younger ones, it's something that you have to fall in love. If you don't fall in love, don't do it. Go become public servants. You have certainty, you have time, you can go to home at 3 o'clock and you can have a nice life. But shipping is only if you fall in love with it. That's the only thing. No other way, you're not going to be successful.
Aristides.
I just want to say, to me, all the descriptions about all these difficulties that we are facing today, it's business as usual. For the last 30 years that I've been in business, there has always been issues, significant issues like these. So it's business as usual. And you guys, the young guys that want to come into business, they will face all these difficulties and more and different, and you will never have the same day. And that's one of the nice things of this business.
Never a boring day, Aristide.
Yeah. I always say that you don't choose shipping, shipping chooses you. If you're lucky.
You are if you're born in it, yeah.
Well, some of us don't have that mistake to blame my parents for. I only blame myself, George, you understand?
Yes, hi. Eduardo, I'm an ICS Greek branch student, former one. I really want to look towards the future and all the advance that is happening in artificial intelligence. And if there are use cases specifically that can transform, there's talks of a lot of industries being revolutionized. You can already see in California all these driverless cars. Are you seeing any specific opportunities for disruption of this industry and your fields with artificial intelligence and deep learning and all of these robots coming together?
Anyone have a view? I generally find intelligence a struggle, let alone artificial, but anyone want to take a view on this?
Can I?
Yeah, George, why first, then Philippos.
Right. I'm completely ignorant of computers. I merely passed it in the university. But what artificial intelligence is, we have to understand, it's not something magical. It's just a super good software that analyzes either images or data. That's what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. So are we afraid that a good analysis of data is going to ruin our market? That's the question to everybody. I don't think so. Images, totally irrelevant. So that's my simple thinking.
Filippo?
I mean, it's exactly that. It's how you use it. And if you use it correctly, it can only help. Data is part of what we do on an everyday basis. Our charters need it, our banks need it, everybody else needs it. Performance is measured daily, so AI just helps supporting that function if you use it in the right way. And obviously it's there to assist, but other than that, it's just a tool, and I agree completely with Mr. Yurikos on this.
Okay.
I don't. I'm terrified with artificial intelligence, I have to tell you. I really am afraid that they will take over the world one day. But anyway, talking about shipping and the disruption in shipping because of the new technologies, shipping is always late to follow the newest developments. We will see things happening, and we see things happening elsewhere in other industries, and then we will adapt to them. We are a slow adapter.
Or, as somebody once said, not being in a hurry to make a mistake, which perhaps is the other way around. Punit, you have one question?
Yeah, hi.
Please make it a quick one, because we're running out of time and there's a couple of things we have to cover.
Fascinating discussion. I have a specific question for Annika and George, and really others can also chip in. I actually believe that Russia is kind of lost to the world now, war or no war. Would you agree that, the fact they're investing in the northern route, the fact that they are actually feeling that they're going to be left out from the international community for time to come will change the way Russia is perceived and traded with in future by the shipping community as well and the world community? Yeah.
That's a big question to leave to the end. No quick answer to that. But I don't think necessarily Russia is, and from what you can see, Russia is keeping going. Their output has not necessarily decreased by huge amounts. Same with the exports, and new trading partners have been found. Exploring the Northern Sea route, I guess with other events in our lives, such as COVID happening, certain technologies have accelerated. That process, for example, has accelerated there. The urgency has become much more. So I would not necessarily say that this has been lost altogether. And you can't forget that from an oil perspective, that Russia is one of the three big producers after the US certainly, and yes, and Saudi. So it's a long time until that actually will change to that extent. Thank you.
George.
I agree with all of that. The only thing I would add is I would say that there's a huge debate in the United States between policymakers, a split, one side wanting to contain Russia, as we know, the other side saying that the key to containing China is bringing Russia on board. And I think that the debate is shifting in the direction of trying to find a way to bring Russia back into the fold again. It's at a very, very early stage, I would say, but it's a growing, ever-growing movement, and I think it's accelerating because the war isn't going anywhere. What I would say to you is if we look at the statistics in the current war, Ukraine has lost 27% of its territory, 10 million displaced people, 200,000 dead, 30% of its GDP destroyed. Meanwhile, the World Bank is projecting that Russia will grow by 3% next year. So Russia isn't going anywhere. The key to it is figuring out how do we create a framework that recognizes different multilateral interests, and we learn that we have to get along not just with the people who agree with us, but also with those that don't.
Okay, thank you, George. I'm just going to have one last quick question for everybody, and then we're done. Okay, Natalia, can you manage? Can you hold on? Okay, a quick and easy question for all of you. Because here are a bunch of your future employees, either maybe they're interested. Let's just imagine this. Somebody here has been inspired by you, each of the panelists, and they want to work for you. They want to come and work for you. They want you to be their boss. You want you to be in your organization. How would you encourage them to approach you? And what, the other thing, would you stress that they wouldn't do or they shouldn't do? Because I think this is quite an important question for people entering in to trying to start their first jobs or their career in the shipping industry. Alexia, if somebody's really interested to work for you, and let's say they've got some qualifications in the law as well, I mean, I suppose that's what you need too, how would you suggest they approach you to show that they want to work for you?
I think they need to show passion. Like George Yuruko said, that you have to be in love with shipping. You need to have passion.
Okay, but what does that mean? They come outside your office and start playing guitar or something? And I mean, sending an email to a website which is going to be forgotten. You know, I mean, I'm just trying to put you back in where you were a few years ago. And you know, how do you go about it? How do you show somebody? How is you as a? You see what I mean?
Yeah, difficult question.
I know, but I think it's a good one.
Yeah, how do they approach me? Yeah, it is a good one, but I think, you know, approaching someone, you know, how, I mean, by which means, or if they see me, and how do they approach me? How do they apply for the...
Maybe I can help here. I would say, like, you know, trainee programs, for example, is something that we do across different areas of the company. So the idea is to try and bring young people in, you know, and allow them to sort of work and showcase the things that you were saying, you know, how did they respond to the environment and so on.
Yes, yes, you're right. I mean, for example, in our company, applying for a summer placement for, you know, for just working for a few weeks is the easiest thing to do, because then we can see that you're passionate, etc., about the work.
Okay, anyone else have any views? Eddie is on the block here. He's keen.
I guess, you know, I agree with George. I mean, love and, I mean, the wrong question is, do I have a timetable? This is the wrong question, obviously, so this will not...
is this work-life balance stuff? You know? Yeah,
this will put me off. But generally, being positive and being, you know, as George said, in love with the business and show it to me, this would make a lot of difference.
Aristides?
First of all, I would tell the young guys here that, and remind them, because they know, that shipping is the only area where Greece is top of the world, right? With 0.1% of the world population, 0.01% of the world population, we control 20% of global shipping. So this is something where Greece excels, and somewhere where we can continue to excel if the young generation realizes that and joins us, because nobody can do anything alone. Greece can stay as being one of the biggest shipping countries in the world only if we have young talent. And I'm very happy to see that we've got a lot of young talent in this room today, and the ICS is doing a great job, and I was amazed to see all the awards that were given as best student in the world and best student everywhere. So I'm very much encouraged that we do have the young generation that is understanding it. It knows it's a great business to be in. It's a business that pays very good salaries, and it's somewhere where you can be proud of being the best. So if you feel all that and it excites you, I'm sure you will be doing a good job and you will fall in love with the business, as all the guys have.
Annika.
So for me, when I look for somebody to join on my desk, I look at every single CV that comes in, myself. And from that, I would like to say, make it count. If you send out that CV, make it really count. What are you applying for? What is it that you're bringing to the plate for that particular job? Very often I get covering letters, very often I get CVs without a covering letter that goes straight to the next slide. But very often I get a covering letter that then starts stating, well, I really would like to apply here because this is a company with a very old heritage going back thousands of years, not quite hundreds, but okay, I know that. You've just wasted a few lines to tell me why you are good for me and my team. Think about that. The other thing is, when you go to work at a position, even though it might not be the one that you really want in your heart, get everything out of it, what you can. Really go and learn every part of it, because a lot of what you can learn, you can reuse elsewhere. Don't diss certain departments or certain areas because you want to be, well, in my case, maybe a broker or something like that. There's so much to learn from the other places on the way there. Take every opportunity to learn and take it in. That's my advice.
Okay, thank you. Wise words. And indeed, with such wise words, we have ended our journey of words of wisdom. I would like to thank all of the panelists for their contributions and for their insights. And my work is done. So back to you, Natalia, boss. Over to you.
Simon, thank you so much. As always, ICS Annual Forum is hosting a charity organization. This year, we have Make-A-Wish Foundation, the largest granting charity organization in the world, with a mission to create life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. So we decided to make a start by adopting a captain, a teddy bear captain. One for each member of our panels. So you will find a bag next to you with this captain. And who is this captain? This captain has been inspired by Konstantinos, a 5-year-old kid who wished to become a captain. This wish has already been adopted by someone who is among us today. But I would like to ask Sandra Zafirakopoulou, where she's the managing director, to tell us, all of us, we are 500 people here, plus so many hundreds, where they attend the seminar today through the live streaming. So if you think that if we give a tiny amount, we can cover those wishes, I would like to ask Sandra to give us just a small help. How can we deal with those two wishes? Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you very much. Also, good evening, everyone. It was almost Chinese, what we were hearing, but congratulations to all of you. I can keep two phrases, one from Mrs. Anneke, I don't recall the surname, you never know what life holds for you, and the second one from our beloved friend, Mr. George Eurokos, you need to be in love with what you do. And I assure you that we are in love with those kids. I would like to thank you on behalf of the Make-A-Wish Greece team. We have there is a special place in our hearts for the Hellenic Management Center and especially Stavroula Tapé, Natalia Komninou and their team. And of course, I would like to express our gratitude to you all for your attention during these last minutes. I know it's the end. In 2023, Make-A-Wish Greece will grant more than 300 wishes for the first time in its 27-year history. In the following few seconds, don't worry, let me focus on what we would love you to remember. We do not run a selection process telling us which wishes to grant. We grant all the wishes of eligible kids, and we adapt our teams and processes accordingly so as to keep our operational expenses to maximum 9% each and every year. We are a proud member of the international family of Make-A-Wish, which grants wishes to 50 countries via 40 affiliates. Make-A-Wish Greece, as an affiliate of the International Foundation, is totally dependent on funds raised only in Greece. These funds come exclusively from individuals and corporates. We are especially proud of our people, employees and volunteers, working together and doing everything in their power to exceed our kids' expectations. Because, as our first wish kid told us, when an incredible dream of yours becomes a reality, then your dream of becoming healthy again becomes more visible. Today, we will try to adopt two wishes of two very special children. Marios, 4 years old, who suffers from Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, has wished for a new bedroom, and Charalambos, 4 years old, fighting nephroblastoma, has wished to go to Santa Claus village, namely Rovaniemi. Any donation of any amount will be devoted to these two wishes. The average cost of wishes is 4,680 euros, according to our 2022 financial statements, signed by our chartered accountants, namely Moore Stevens. As you leave the room, actually, when you want to leave the building, because we are just across the registration desk, you will find there are volunteers, and there we can receive your donation or even your promise. For us, a promise today is a donation tomorrow. So if you don't have the time, if you are really tired, you can go straight back to your families and give them a big hug, but leave us a phone and a name which we can contact. What else? You can also reach us by email, info@makeawish.gr. We wish you health and the power to wish with all your hearts. Thank you on behalf of the whole Make-A-Wish family.
I have to congratulate Sandra. She's doing a great, great job. Thanks a lot, Sandra.
We have some fairies back there.
Congratulate all of you. So, dear members of our panel, thank you so much for your participation. Simon, for one more time, you were a perfect moderator. I am so happy that you are next to me and next to the Institute all these years. Thank you so much. Nothing would be possible without the help of my team. Stavroula, Konstantina, Tanya, where she's with COVID and she's not with us today. Tonya and Bilio, thank you all so much for the help. Also, I would like to thank everybody who contributed to the organization of our event. Leonidas Evgenidis Dimitriadis, thank you so much. All these years you host us from the first forum that we did here 18 years ago. I would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Nicholas Tsavliris. Thank you so much. And last but not least, our loyal sponsors. Once again, thank you very much for being here tonight. My best wishes for Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.